At the top of my screen, it says it's showtime. I click it, it says it's showtime, and then it takes forever to start. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Hello, everybody. North Aurora FPV. Now, that's a cracking handle. Grey Arrows, hello. Johnny, hello. Flyby. Oh, no, that's you. Happy birthday, Steve. Happy birthday to you. Well, here we are. Ian was here. Where's Ian gone? He snuck off. He was here and he's gone. What did we do? Someone come and knocked on his door.
I think they got him.
They got him. They got him just before we went on air. Now my internet connection is very dodgy this evening. But let's get before we come to Mike. Mike is very interested in the Lake and Heath thing as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Mike. We've got to go to the elephant in the room for the drone industry in most of the world, well, particularly America, and that's the potential for 104% tariffs. It's quite extraordinary on China. And PC crash. Be right back. He's just WhatsApp me. His PC's crashed. A lot of people for many years have said, even if DJI gear costs twice the price it does today, I'd still fly it. I'd still run it commercially. Well, I guess we're going to find out. It seems like it might be happening. I can't believe, in a lot of ways, I can't believe he will. But Stephen and Bruce, have you got any thoughts on that before we
Did DJI say they were setting up manufacturing operations in the USA to get around these tariffs?
Did they?
I heard rumors
that's just a rumor going around.
Yeah.
Well, would they bother? Would they bother to go to all that effort and all that money? Holly Bro. Well, of course, it's the other knock-on effect it's going to have is all the NDAA and Blue SUS autopilot manufacturers in America bring in stacks of their components from Taiwan, which magically gets recognized as a country where it can be taxed or tariffed. Finally, the official recognition via the point of we want money from them, which is a terrible, terrible backhanded thing to do. As he sits with Lesotho behind me. Poor Lesotho. Just over the poor Lesotho.
What about those Antarctic islands which have no people or anything, just penguins? Those penguin exports are going to be really crippled.
Absolutely. But the average annual salary in Lesotho is $900 US. They happen to have gold and diamonds, and guess what? But did you see? Did what Namibia did make big news? I don't think it did around the world, did it? They immediately said, "I tell you what, Americans, we're suddenly going to give you." You're going to have visas to come here. They haven't had, and they're working diamonds on the soles of my shoes. We all know that song. So they've worked basically. They've just come and gone and grabbed stuff. They've chucked them all out. They've chucked out all the miners. Said you come and have a. There's 500 of them. You come and get your proper paperwork, or you're away. But
that hasn't made the news. But that has not made the news here.
No, no. It's a cunning move. Cunning move on the part of Trump. He's very clever, isn't he? Don't you think? It's a stunningly clever move. Because what happens now is all these countries got these massive tariffs, so they're all rushing to negotiate a deal. And that deal will mean that the USA will have tariff-free access to their markets over and above everybody else. So Trump has basically said our exporters now have a clear path to all these export markets. And it's a win. Because he's all about bluffing and making it look really worse than it is. So this is his. He lays down the worst possible option. Then people come and negotiate. He backs it down. So there'll be zero tariffs. Even when the country has general tariff policy, they'll probably give an exception for US products now. So US exports are highly competitive on the world market once this is all sorted.
Allegedly.
There was talk about I think it was the UK. There was talk yesterday that the UK was going to negotiate actually, I think it was zero tariffs as well. So you never know how this is going to. But of course, it's affecting the market. Many people are suffering as a result, and he's not popular.
Oh, Ian's taking a while to come back, but
he's booting slowly.
He's booting slowly. It's like my internet connection. But all those component manufacturers in America, if this keeps running. They bring their gear in from Taiwan and other countries for the semiconductors. The price of homegrown stuff's going to go through the roof to produce it over there.
the thing is, can actually Taiwan keep up with the demand? Because we know that even though they do come from there, they're having trouble keeping up with the demand. And that will be because if there's going to be more demand for it, there's going to be even, it's going to be even tougher. So I mean, we'll see delays again. So you'll see delays on cars being produced and phones and all the rest of it. So it will have an effect.
But they're gonna send it to places with less friction, aren't they? If they can get if they need to sell it and get rid of it, they'll send it to countries that provide them less friction.
But that won't happen overnight as well. But that will take time as well.
Yeah. But these tariffs are transient anyway, aren't they? I mean, let's face it.
They are.
I wouldn't be buying a damn thing at the moment, because you could buy it today with a 30% tariff, and tomorrow the tariffs are off, and you've wasted all that money. So it's going to put a real chilling effect on the economy in the USA, the retail, especially for imported products, because no one's going to take the risk that tomorrow, because he's off and on like a anything. He could be flipping and changing, and until there's some stability, because he says these tariffs are going to result in more production facilities in the USA. No one's going to invest tens of millions of dollars creating a manufacturing plant, because you're taking advantage of tariffs when those tariffs could be removed tomorrow, because your investment just goes down the river. So it's obvious that's not his real plan. That's his stated plan, but his real plan is just to negotiate tariff-free entry for US goods into other countries.
And the thing I alluded to in the description of this one is the one that really, and maybe it's meaningless, but the fact that China's, I think it's 9 rare earth metals, and particular ones that they
unobtainium, novendium, and impervium are the main ones.
Exactly, that's right, those ones. But I think they've been very clever, and that's outside of tariffs, as it were. Those are very, very restrictions,
because they weren't exporting motors and things either, were they? A lot of drone parts they decided they weren't going to export. Well, did they actually continue, or is it just more of a headline thing?
No, it did continue. They did but they have put people in prison for continuing to export them. A couple of the manufacturers in China are no longer at liberty to
It's just because they need
further their business
transplants. Yeah,
exactly. Well, a big Hammond organ. No, anyway, I haven't seen an organ for ages. Wurlitzer, exactly. I haven't seen one of those for ages. Yeah, no, it's funny things going on in the world. Very, very funny things in the world. It will settle down. This too shall pass. But it's going to be interesting to see where we end up once that's happened. Now, to the meat and potatoes, or some of the meat and potatoes of this evening. We're very lucky to have Mike with us, who's also interested in Lake and Heath. And I don't quite know how to frame all this without getting either Mike or Ian into bother with anyone. But it's all very strange, and I felt it was further stranger today when Ian, you sent me a freedom of information answer or response that you got this morning. I shall put it up now, but it was pretty well. Do you want to talk about it? It's not mine to talk about.
Do you want to post in the chat for everyone to see as well, Gary, just for those people that haven't seen it, the BBC story? By the way, if I vanish at some point, you can blame it on Windows 11. So, the first thing, just to step back for a moment, is the BBC obviously did a piece on, I think it was Friday, and then the local paper, the NewsQuest paper, did an article as well, and asked the local MP for views, who said he wanted to see more transparency on this incident. So the story covers the information that we've sort of ascertained up to date, and I got a mention in there from the ADSB logs, and because I showed those, the BBC looked at it as well. I said, well, look, you can see that whatever's gone on, as we said last week, appeared to have taken place over Newmarket, because the helicopters, it just straight A to B until then, and then it's weaving about. It climbs up to around 5,000 feet. And then we know that they logged an air prox and said we had to leave the area, at which point you see it return back down to the base. So following that, there's still obviously freedom of information's in, and they're all being dragged out. So your freedom of information normally when you put your request in is 20 days. They're all then being knocked back for considering the public interest. And when you do that, you're supposed to just do it for as long as it takes. You've got a legal maximum of 20 days. They're all just putting it to 20 days. But to be honest, if that goes on to tribunal, that'll be a point that's raised where stuff is straightforward. You're kind of not in the spirit if you're deliberately using 20 days as a delay tactic rather than it being necessary to provide your answer. So this is a bizarre one with Suffolk Constabulary, because it's arguably the easiest question ever asked on freedom of information ever. And but by the same token, it probably has the most exemptions thrown back at it for any freedom of information ever. So I simply said, who called in the sighting? Was it the base, which it almost certainly is, or was it a member of the public? But I just thought, I don't like to ever assume anything, so I will just ask the question so we can dot the I's and cross the T's. But they're saying basically it would be highly useful for a terrorist to know if a member of the public or the base had called in a sighting. No, it's not. Well, as you can see with Mike, he's nodding away in frustration at it, because we all know it's complete and utter nonsense. The entire list of exemption is the way you're supposed to do it is you say, I'm applying this exemption and I'm considering the public interest and I'm going to weigh it up. It's never weighed up. It's never the public interest. It's the authority's interest being passed off as the public interest. So this is one that will be going to internal review and then on to the ICF, because it's silly that it's even getting blocked. It harms nobody.
But isn't this, sorry to jump in on you, wouldn't this just be a standard go away response with a few altered phrases in it to match your case? Wouldn't they send this sort of thing all the time?
Oh, this normally would be the same thing where people would just answer this. There's no reason not to answer it. It's so trivial. I mean, this is the most trivial Lake and Heath question there has been today. But I think it is just picking up the fact that because what we have got on freedom of information is we have had confirmation, and this one you can show. So let me dig it out. The MPCC have confirmed that essentially they've been managing a number of the freedom of information requests specific to the Lake and Heath incident. Let's just find out where it is. Here we go. And this is particularly interesting because they're not only managing police authorities like the National Police Air Service, they're also managing they've kind of been reviewing the responses from the Ministry of Defence Police as well. So I think that's particularly interesting because that was unexpected to see. So you've got the link there, so you can show people on that one, Gary.
All right, I'm coming with that.
It should take you to a specific request, and then you can open up the PDF.
Okay, and Mike, what's your position taken? Why you're not one of us droners? What's your take on all this? Why are you interested in this?
Well, I mean, a bit of disclosure from my side for anybody who's watching. I'm a retired police officer myself. I did 30 years, and I ended up as a senior investigating officer. So I've got an interest from that angle, but I'm also interested in the UFO stroke UAP and military aviation side of things. So it all sort of knits together, this Lake and Heath saga. To go on from what Ian's just said, I mean, I've had some pretty strange replies as well from FOIA requests. I asked the NPAS, at what point did your helicopter crew lose sight or contact with this alleged drone, as it is? And they came back to me and said, we did not lose sight or contact with the drone. Now, I know that might be just a play on words, but they must have, because it's physically impossible for them to continually still be in sight of it. They'd still be in sight of it now. This is the silliness of the replies we're getting. You know, it doesn't make any sense at all. You know, and I've had other things as well. I've had some of the call logs back from Suffolk and Norfolk police, and they've completely stripped out any calls that have any reference at all to the air bases. Now,
it should be worth noting as well, though, they'd also stripped out the ones that Stuart got, which were confirming that the helicopter had decided to retreat, and the one suggesting there was a evasive action taken. So,
yeah.
I think yours was along the lines where you should have had those. So you've got a potential case for concealment to take to the ICO there, because if they'd taken those out deliberately in your one, they should have made that clear. There should have been really what we should have seen. I think did yours have the date on?
Mine have got dates and times, and there are wider search parameters as well.
Yeah, so you should have had a date and a time. And if they didn't want to provide the thing, they should have just done an entire line of redactions. It shouldn't just vanish altogether. Which is
so hang on, help me. I'm not an aficionado of these things. So that sort of reveals that there is something there. If there's a blanked out line, what was I wanted to say? So that has sort of revealed there's something there, but it's not telling anything. But it's giving you a clue. There's a date. Here's a time. And here's something they don't want you to know about. And then what I also wanted to ask then is, would they be, because they were calling the military, hello, Lake and Heath, this is us. Are they allowed to pull that out for safety, security, terrorism? Is that a known thing that you can pull out of information?
You could obviously remove the individual's personal details because of the general data protection registration stuff. But to just say that we had a phone call from Joe Bloggs, or, you know, member of the public or the military at Lakenheath, there's no reason on my watch, as Ian was saying earlier, that you know, why would you take that out? It's the most stupid response to the simplest question you can imagine. I mean, another one that I've had, I'm just trying to find out where it is now. Basically, I asked them very simple questions, and they just keep coming back with silly answers. I mean, if I can just move on a little bit from it, one of the issues that I have with this, and I know we've talked about, is it a drone? Is it something different? Looking outside of the box, I've done a bit of research around it, and obviously, as you guys know, you're the experts around this. There's no fly zones around these airfields anyway, for obvious reasons. But within the days after these sightings started occurring, the MOD police, and I've got this from them on FOIA requests, were putting further restrictions on these bases, and also a lot of other American establishments in this country that aren't actual flying bases, if you're following me.
Yeah,
now,
infrastructure.
But none of them, I asked them as well, did anybody ask for anything to be put on British staffed military establishments, and even the nuclear base at Faslane? And the answer is no. So straight away, you're asking the question, what is so important about these US bases and not the British bases?
Because then I'm going to say, from my viewpoint, now that's just we're humouring the Americans. We've got to do something to make them feel. Because they did this in the US. They put them over in New York and New Jersey. That's their reaction to this situation, is we look like we're doing something by putting these airspace restrictions over, even though really it's not achieving anything, because all an airspace restriction is doing is stopping legally flying people from going into the zone, which those people wouldn't be flying in the zone anyway. It's not going to keep criminals out. It's not going to keep a deliberate Russian, spy out if there were such a thing going on. So really, it is just it's the optics of it. It's just we're looking like we're doing something. That's more of what it's about. And obviously, with the UK bases anyway, especially when it's the RAF bases, that, you know, they're happy that the AUKUS is doing the job for them, and obviously that's why that was sent out as well as extra reassurance. And also above and beyond that, the you know, we know the National Police Chiefs Council Count John people went out as well. So really, they had the entire response we would have done if, say, it was a civilian airport having another Gatwick incident going on. It's you know, it was that and then some, because I think they got 4 AUKUS kits in total.
Wow.
The count that I'd seen is that the UK's got 7 in total.
Really? 7 official ones that the government's paid for. I'm sure there must be more than that. But that pretty much must have covered Eastern England. And of course, we've got to remember, in this incident, they did actually launch F-15s and had them on combat air patrols over Eastern England. So the noise and kerfuffle and lights in the sky would have increased sightings for absolute certains.
Can I just come in there, Ian, very quickly? Just on the subject about the combat air patrols over Norwich, I mean, it's been reported, as you say, in various media outlets. That sort of goes hand in hand in a way with this, what Ian was saying about keeping the Americans happy and what's going on with the British. Because one of the things that I've found over the years around, you know, the general view around UAP, UFOs things is the Americans, as I'm sure you've all seen on the media in recent years, appear to be generally happier to talk about it, although there are some divisions in the American establishment around that. But in terms of our own country, the UK MOD just will not talk about it. They will not engage. And I've got FOIA requests and correspondence going back almost 10 years or more. And that I've got one of them in front of me here. And they always come back with the same book answer. And that is, I can advise you that the MOD has no opinion on the existence of extraterrestrial life, and there is no threat to the UK, etc., etc., etc. So you're getting 2 different sides here. You're getting the American side, who are, on the face of it, very happy to talk about this, whatever it is. And then on the other side, you've got the UK establishment, just do not want to talk about it. And going back to the F-15s being launched, I mean, bearing in mind, RAF Coningsby is literally, I don't know, 30 miles down the road with 50 typhoons and a 24/7 QRA ability. Who's in charge of the skies over the UK? Is it the Americans or is it the British?
No, I completely thought that at the time. And other assets didn't move, the Sentinels and things like that from the RAF. Much the same as Gatwick. You know, if there is trouble afoot, then certain assets will move, and those assets didn't move. So did they need to get some extra night flying in? Were they running out of night flying hours and they needed an excuse to get them in to not upset the neighbours? I mean
that is a fair point as well, because Gary's mentioned this before. It did seem a bit convenient all this kicked off so they could keep on doing the night flying missions, which normally the local public there would have been complaining about. But once you scare them all and they think there's something flying about that shouldn't be, they're going, oh, go on, fly as long as you like.
but Mike's exactly right. There are systems and procedures. If you're going to do a QRA scramble, this aircraft does this for this reason. These assets move. Therefore, that's the people that should have been doing the patrolling, not just some ad hoc patrols coming up of people. I don't know what they were hoping to achieve. So if we go with the drone narrative, was not a lot an F-15 can do unless it's a massive thing. And if it's a massive thing, that'll be on radar. We can track that. We can see where it's going. And if it's UAP, well, they're never going to keep up. I'm trying to use the word UAP. I want to see UFO because I'm old. They're UFOs. They're not UAPs. That's rubbish. That's modern. That's woke. That's wokeism. That is. Oh, no,
flying saucers.
Flying saucers, exactly.
Let's get real old school.
Yeah, absolutely. The Allens was very naive of us to think we might be the only people out there, but whatever people, true, but whatever's happened, they're not doing themselves any favors by covering up, lying, that word beginning with O and making it blurry.
Obfuscating.
Oh, that's the one. Yes, that word. They're not doing themselves any favour. And in the modern world, people are gathering the information. So what's the... Pull out the theremin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I take those, but it stops my beard growing.
I keep my soup in one.
That's right. Yes. What was I going to say, Cliff? You distracted me now, you devil. Of course, he's a Space 1999 man. What was I going to say?
Ian,
Good.
Just a little final point from my side of things. A lot of people have said over recent months that this is something to do with the Russians or the Chinese or whatever, and I take a different angle on this. And we have been told for decades that the Russians have aircraft intruding upon our airspace. In recent weeks as well, we've had Russian ships, spy ships, whatever. They're allegedly looking at our gas pipelines, at our undersea cables. And the Times only a few days ago were saying that with sources in the Royal Navy, that underwater listening devices had been planted off the west coast of Scotland to listen for our nuclear submarines, and that some of them allegedly had been washed ashore, although they wouldn't disclose exactly where. Now, if we're talking about that sort of stuff, now, what's the big deal about saying it's a Russian drone, if that's what it is? It just, do you see the logic of it? It just doesn't fit together with the narrative that we're constantly being given about these bad guy Russians are doing this and that, and or the Chinese or whoever it is. If it's a drone, it's a drone. We've seen them over Ukraine. I'll leave the technical stuff to you guys over that, whether it could be capable or not to come over here. But it just doesn't seem to fit together. It really doesn't.
I mean, what's been done in Ukraine anyway, it's your small drones that are flying for a limited amount of time, or there's a few FPV, fixed wing stuff, but that wouldn't be going at any kind of speed that was claimed here anyway. So it doesn't fit for anything that's Ukraine either. So, I mean, if it wasn't for the MPAS having video, I'd say this is just another balls. I mean, it could still be, because it could be the MPAS looking up, seeing a normal airliner at a distance and saying, "Oh, well, it's a fixed wing thing closer." We really don't know, and that's the problem. Unless they put the video out, there can't be any debate one way or another. And if it, I'm with you. If that conclusively shows this is some sort of conventional drone, when I say that, I mean, it would be something that AUKUS would pick up, an RC transmitter.
Yeah.
thing.
You don't think it was the Gatwick drone?
Well, it can't be, because we know that didn't exist. But if we could say something like, I don't see what the big deal is either, because as Gary said, if it was conventional parts, actually by putting it out there, you just have people contributing and going, "Oh yeah, I've seen such and such with that in his garage," and you've got the bloke. But that all just comes down to if it is genuine. But I mean, it could just be again that it's a, like I say, mistake. B, it's a really crappy video for some reason, and it's just totally inconclusive. Who knows? But it's puzzling as well, again, because we have seen the National Police Air Service get something that was, put down as like a UAP. They didn't know what it was. They could only see it on thermal, and you can see the videos. If you Google it, you better find it, because one of the newspapers put it out. But I mean, I couldn't tell what it was. It definitely wasn't like what we're used to seeing with any drone, because you haven't got all those heat signatures coming back. You've just got something that just looks like it's moving through the air at speed. But we do know from Freedom of Information that the National Police Air Service did not conduct any analysis of the airspace to see if they could have done a false positive, which I think is really a gap, because they assumed, bad assumption, that the UK Airprox board do some proper thorough analysis, which we know they don't. They just read what's on the piece of paper, and whatever the pilot says goes. Other than they've had been they've been nudged over the years to say, because you're doing that, you're just getting everything pinned for drone, even when it's not. Could you just put some rules around it? So now you've got to put a bit of description around it to convince them. You say, well, I saw that it had 4 arms, so it was a quadcopter, and then once you start saying stuff like that, it's fair enough. I'll go down as a drone. So they'll kind of be interesting to see here. But I've got a feeling here as well that the CAA pushed back the publication, because I can't imagine that something that's been discussed at the Airprox board in February takes all the way to June to come out. And this is something that was back in November. It all seems very inefficient, doesn't it? Unless they are just that inefficient.
The Air Proximity Board. Sorry.
If you think of what's happening in the UK and think of what the UK has to offer in terms of military at the moment, which we know is not much, because the UK is lacking when it comes to defence, and they're lacking a lot. Obviously, the US doesn't have like a huge amount, obviously, in the UK compared to what they have in the US. But if you look at other countries, like obviously on the border, like Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, here in Finland, for example, where we're having a lot of NATO exercises going on right now, and there's a lot of US troops here. There's a lot of things going on, which I would assume would be much more interesting to the Russians or even the Chinese, but more so the Russians. They would be more, because there's like a new NATO base being opened up in the middle of Finland, the Mikkeli, which is about two and a half hours away. That's going to house a hell of a lot of new US troops there, and that is somewhere where I think that and in fact those troops will start to go in there at some point at the end of this year or middle of this year. I can't quite remember. Now that is obviously something which is more of interest to the Russians, and they can easily fly from Russia and get to there with their drones. So, I mean, I don't see what the UK has to offer, because obviously they're weak.
I think you could have a fly through to just poke defenders and things. You could fly through and see what happened, because let's say that's what happened. Some foreign power did that. An awful lot of money was burnt when the F-15s and stuff launched. So you could fly through and poke things to see what happens. I mean, we don't want to talk too much about all of this, but we know full well there's lots of things you could do. But if you truly want to spy, then you do what the Chinese do in America, and that is buy all the buildings on the road going into the big bases, or plant all the high trees and all that. You don't bother flying stuff and getting all super. The last thing you do is get super technical. You get super simple. All the CCTV cameras in the area and all the other stuff. We just say one shouldn't really talk about all this sort of stuff.
All the telephone networks.
Or the telephone networks, for instance, Huawei in the cabinet.
Huawei, indeed, yeah.
It's not rocket science, is it? You're not gonna. We're not in a James Bond or a Thunderbirds world of reality. It's the simple stuff that always wins. Leave this door open, painters inside, or something like that. All those sort of security things. They're always the things that work.
I would just like to add that we're working this week and next week in Lithuania and Latvia at the moment. We're doing cell tower inspections, and of course, there's a lot of military areas in Lithuania and Latvia, because they're obviously near the Russian border. And actually, they're quite strict, but they're quite kind of relaxed in terms of when we're trying to apply for, permits to fly in some of these places. And they're actually quite relaxed, but it's more like we'll give you a 2-hour window and you can fly in that 2-hour window. And then you can't fly at all. So we have a small window to fly, and they're really relaxed about it, and we don't have to make any applications and stuff. So it's actually quite good, but they're really, really heavy on it, and there's quite a lot of locations. So, but it's quite interesting to plan to do that on the Russian border. It's been my last week.
You than me. I'll be quite happy being 6,000 miles away from that. Thanks.
Is it anti-mode all the way because GPS is denied?
It's on our checklists.
It's Oh, cliff talks, cushions and paddles. I don't know.
You're burning your house down once, and Cliff just goes on.
And Cliff, he won't stop going on about me burning the house down, will he? I've nagged on and on and on about it.
So the thing with the military side of things, when we talk, because again, we get freedom of information getting knocked back with the national security, and just talking about this, just generally, everything in the military it's all known anyway. You know, you go to military trade shows, and they're literally there with the PDF spec sheets to give you, and you can download them online. And you know, a lot of say counter-drone systems, you can. The user manuals online to watch, so it's not like you even need to go and you know, there's nothing secret for anyone in another country. You know, you just go to London to one of the military trade shows, go in there, say you want to buy one, you'll come out with all the PDFs up to here, you know, printed out, and all the contacts you need. So
it's hard to get
highly amusing.
After you, Bruce.
I was going to say it's harder to get the spec sheets for some of the chips the Chinese make for their RF equipment.
Absolutely.
Some of the commercial products, you have to sign all the NDAs and whatever just to get the bloody data you need to use the chip.
Yeah, I was thinking as Ian was saying that on the UAP side, because with all the counter drone equipment that's coming, perhaps the sky is going to be looked at in a far more granular nature than ever before. Way more sensors looking for those big bad drones that might spot something else on the way. And I was just thinking, gosh, I wonder if Richard, I should have thought harder as ever about this. We could have asked Richard if his cameras
have a flying saucer category. Is there a little counter for flying saucers on his system?
For the AI to recognise it? Well, yeah, that would be. But then that straight away would be a snag, isn't it? If it can't detect it as a bird, aircraft, or drone,
you could sign up all the UFO fanatics to a subscription service.
Did we not have that conversation the last time it was on, or was it not offline?
No, you forget we're very old and we remember nothing between sessions here.
That is the main. That would be the main snake. No, we should. No. I can't say. No, I can't say what he was showing.
Are you sure?
I think no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was. But nice conspiracy theory. I like what you're doing there. We could put some doubt in that. It's very good. No, it was aircraft around Heathrow. He was showing us how well he could see from the top of that tower in the middle of the night in Reading. That's what he was doing. He was slewing the cameras around the Reading area.
I was going to say, worth mentioning, just Mike, for your benefit, we should goes back again, because what I've been trying to explain to like the UAP community is this assumption that America's better when it comes to counter drone and that. And I'm like, no, they're well behind. They've gone down the RF gun route where they should have been going down, detection and awareness of the sky. But this is a game where the UK, you know, obviously we mentioned AUKUS for the counter drone system, but even in the civilian space, so what Gary's mentioned is Altitude Angel. They've got these arrow towers, and we'll see that you know, whether that's ever rolled out nationally or whatever or not. But it's a very clever idea. So there's towers on, and they're essentially counter drone towers. So they've got all those kind of sensors in there. So you've got the RF, you've got a radar, but it's also got a continually panning camera capturing the sky and an AI on it. So it's logging what's actually going on, and we've never had that to date. So you would actually have, you know, if that was rolled out further, a continual eyes in the sky of what's going on, because the whole point of this these towers is the problem we've got with airspace at the moment is a lot of stuff isn't conspicuous, so it isn't transmitting out, it isn't saying I'm here. Even with your normal aircraft, there'll be people that aren't transmitting, because you know there'll be dodgy stuff going on as well. You know, people shifting stuff from A to B that they shouldn't be doing, so they ain't going to be transmitting. So really, where we should be is always thinking, let's just assume that things aren't being conspicuous, and let's just capture everything that's going on, and then you'll know what's going on, which is really what they've been doing. So it's very clever from that viewpoint. So, but again, if you look at the US, I've not really seen anyone in the US quite doing that. It's all a lot more compromised. It's more RF, and that everything's pinging out messages for you to collect.
Which is a very lazy way of doing it, really. But Richard's Towers go from Reading to Oxford now in a line. So in a line Reading to Oxford, I think it's 10 miles wide, could be 10 nautical miles. I don't know. It's either 10 statute or 10 nautical miles wide. In that corridor, they're capturing and data on everything that they see in the sky. So if something were to go through there, and trying to categorize it. But I suppose the fault is they don't have a UAP category or filter. But they've got terabytes of data about what's in the sky, and they've detected aircraft a long way out. I know I showed us some things which I don't think we're allowed to talk about, but they had an expected range it would work, and it's working a lot better than I thought they thought it would.
How would that work with the CAA? Or even parts of the government, would they be happy knowing that there is equipment like that which can detect things?
Probably not. Probably not. They're probably not happy that if they're doing flights at low level for whatever reason that aren't doing stuff, somebody's gathered that information. They probably won't be happy about it. I suppose. That be you a baddie or a goodie. If you don't want to be seen, you don't want to be seen. Well, look at all like Elon Musk and all these that want the ability to switch off their ADSB, which that's ridiculous. That should never be allowed. It doesn't work for anyone. Cliffs, I cannot see any mass drone usage happening at all. Massive breakthrough made in battery technology. No, I think we're at mass usage. Cliff, I'm going to disagree with you. I think there's plenty of infrastructure inspections and things that could be gotten on with in the low-level airspace. I think it's potentially bigger than you think. Oh gosh, I'm going to full rant mode. Here's my next full rant. I've said this before. The trouble is you've got legacy vendors that have put in very expensive radar systems that then charge the UK and America, charge people an absolute fortune to keep running those legacy radar systems. And the trouble is they're not very good. They don't detect stuff at low level very well. At distance, they don't overlap much. And people like Richard are coming with these. So this is where I really want to go, Stephen. The new technologies that are coming are going to disrupt the legacy vendors. And they don't want it. So if governments don't want it, the legacy vendors don't want it because their gravy train is busy going away. And we've got a digital sky. I'm getting off my high horse. I'm getting off my horse. Someone else talk. I'm on the high horse.
I should add, I think the MOD do want it. The trouble is, like the MOD want it. They just don't want to pay for it. And
there is that part of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everyone kind of wants it, but they want to don't bit on the drone community and pay for it by making us all feel guilty for things we haven't done, which really seems to be the line of attack with it all. But I feel that in this day and age, we should have more of an awareness of the sky. Just even if we said drones didn't exist, we should have an awareness of what's going on above, far better than we do now. So I kind of don't understand why we don't have that as a national security thing. Anyway, money actually put in that we have essentially these like arrow towers over the whole of the UK paid for by the taxpayer through whatever channel it has to be. I don't really like taking it off, saying, although even if it's been used for the MOD, it probably wouldn't entirely be fair to take it off their budget because they don't. That's the trouble is everything kind of gets taken off their budget. But I kind of think, you think we've got roads, we've got sewers, we've got all the infrastructure we've built in the past for our life now. And I think as part of that, we should be thinking now's the time to have an awareness of the sky and that you have that as a standard, a default, that's something we should be having as a country and that you would pay for through taxes. And it's just there. Without trying to just dump it on a tiny, relatively tiny portion of the overall populace.
I've forgotten what's the name of that radio system that I saw in a thing last week, and I sent it to you. Sapient, that they're trying to get into everything.
Yeah, the AI. Yeah.
It's the receivers as well. So that they are busy trying to
get the gay version too. Don't forget the gay version. Homo sapien.
Go on. Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. Just though that says cancelled again. Still
keep it up.
Yeah. Oh, look, what's the time? We've been going 43 minutes. We're going well on this. But so how can we have a conclusion to this element of this? That people are being what's the bottom line? People are being obscuring this story
more so than Gatwick. So
more than Gatwick. Yeah,
that's why I think this is quite. It's interesting actually from two viewpoints, because obviously we had Gatwick and we all were frustrated by it, but we thought the truth would come out, and then obviously we knew it turned out it didn't, and we knew we had to fight for it. And the good thing now is, straight away it's like, yeah, we're not waiting for anyone to be honest with this. It ain't going to happen. Let's just go for it. So it has been good from that viewpoint of just jumping straight in there and trying to get stuff out, and that's why stuff initially came out. I think we hit the ground so fast. People hadn't already prepared to think, let's manage the message. And it was only when they realised the National Police Air Service were doing their job correctly by respecting freedom of information, and it's then being jumped on, and we're going, oh, you bad boy, don't you be giving out the information. That's not the way we work. And it's really disappointing seeing all that rolled back. And, the National Police Air Service is the way all the police services should be. That is the correct way of doing freedom of information. And we've just
the facts that we know are between a time and a time on a date, the helicopter was dispatched into the Lakenheath Newmarket area, and it flew back and forth and went home. And then the other facts we can unpack from freedom of information is the helicopter moved out of the way for safety's sake. Not quite fully unpacked why it moved out of the way, but we've got the time for that. What else do we know? We don't actually know.
No, it's not video.
That's what I was going. Do we know? Does that fact we know there was a video?
Yes, they've admitted that there was a video, and then it was related to the Airprox event. So the two were the same.
Okay, so we know there was a video, and what we don't know is what it saw. Because some people say it was a large fixed wing moving at speed, and other people have said nothing. So
I had one response from the MPAS. I don't know whether Ian ever got something like this himself, where I asked what did they see, and they said, well, it indicated the belief that the other platform was a drone. Now, again, going back to my other previous, investigations around UAP, UFOs, that is a common thing that these days, if in doubt, blame it on a drone.
Well, yeah.
20 years ago, it was a UFO. Now it's a drone, and so it's just a default blame now. If it's a black bin bag that's up in the sky, and there's a plane that is passing at some speed, they will blame a drone. But
if you don't know what it is, it's an unidentified flight. What's UAP stand for? I don't know what it even stands for.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Oh, then it's the same, isn't it? If you don't know what it is, it still is. It doesn't mean it's Martians. But it means you don't know what it is.
The interesting thing is, Ian, is that if just going back to the States for a minute, for the last 2 Novembers in a row, there have been a number of what have been again called drone incursions over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Now, it took one of the recent meetings last summer for one of the Senate committees to say to the people who are responsible for investigating the UAPs, the group called Arrow, you will investigate drones over Langley. And the reason why was because basically they were saying, we don't investigate drones because UAP are not drones. And the reason why they're not drones is because they don't display any of these instantaneous acceleration, anti-gravity, lack of visible propulsion, etc. So you can see where they're coming from. So when the US Senate is saying you will now investigate these drones at Langley, you get this crossover. And it's interesting, as again, things are different on the other side of the pond as they are here, big time.
I think the difference though with the US is they have got. I have to be careful.
They've got one, haven't they? In Area 51.
They're basically there's influence within the US government from people that push the UFO thing because it's personally their thing and it's profitable for them, or they're just they're kind of UAP zealots and they've got money over there from the government and are pushing that anyway, irrespective of the fact that if there's anything to back that up or not. So you kind of get stuff asked for within the government there that you wouldn't hear because you wouldn't be getting the money and the time of day anyway. But like, well, if you want to follow that, pay for it out of your own pocket and push it. But this is what I've mentioned before. It's kind of a different mindset over there. Over here, there's just if you're talking about UFOs, you're going to be going. What medication do you know you on? You're just not going to be taken seriously. Where in the US it's different, but I'm kind of happy with that because what we saw go on New York and New Jersey was worrying because the government knows full well that people were seeing aircraft, but it can't even say that. It can't. They literally are too. They just don't want to offend people and say you were idiots and you were logging sightings of aircraft. They're humoring them and saying these were FAA approved drones. What they really mean is, no, you were seeing aircraft, but we can't even say that to you because you'll take offense. And that's really what it's about. And this is why you've got some in the UAP scene that are trying to weaponize that again for their own cause of saying, oh, but they're saying these FAA authorized drones, but there aren't. And it's like, no, you are weaponizing this now. All they're doing is they're just saying that to be polite. It's just a catch-all of any drones you did see were drones, period, doing legal things, nothing to worry about. The rest of it was aircraft. But rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of it all, they're just saying they were approved drones. Matter over with. As far as they're concerned, they put out all the proper counter drones they should have had in the first place, found that nothing was flying about. And as far as the authorities are concerned, it's probably matter over with, other than they had, they picked out about 100 that were, they thought, well, we will give these the time of day because there might be a level of detail or something in there that the rest haven't captured. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And I know they went away to look at those. I don't know. They've not done anything since. Not that I've heard anyway. That's sort of said, how far through they are, or if they have found anything of concern. But we had on this show actually back then a guy who goes nickname on ex Hound Life, I think, and he was in New Jersey, and he's a drone flyer, and he was looking at ADSB. And he was just shocked. He's seeing his neighbours going nuts over these things. And he's like, calm down. Why is the world around me going mad? There's nothing here to see. So
I agree. Bruce probably did do it. I think at the end of the day,
By the way, I want to say something that happened to me. I forgot about this, and I just remembered this morning. I was flying this morning. There's a place where I fly every week. I do these weekly flights for a big construction site, and I always fly. I always locate myself just outside of the area because I get a much better radio view of the entire area. And there's a road which is just kind of behind where I am, but there's a kind of a public pathway which is the other side of the road, but it's like kind of fencing. And when I was flying, there was an old pensioner who was walking past, and he shouted over at me. He shouted over, "Are you a Russian spy?" He actually shouted, "Are you a Russian spy?" This was in Finnish, of course, and I went over to talk to him, and I said, "Sorry." He says, "Oh, are you a Russian spy?" In English, and I said, "No, I'm from Scotland." And he went, "Oh, that's okay then," and he walked away.
Scottish spy.
A Scottish spy, yes.
Yeah, Scottish spy. What did you have with your Scottish spy? Yeah, I know. I suppose that it's very because we are running up to the hour. The conclusion to this really is we're never going to know.
No,
they're never going to. But something's definitely happened, isn't it?
Ignorance is bliss.
Absolutely. Thank goodness. That's why I'm so jolly and happy. Exactly, the blissful life that I lead.
And we've also learned if you are a Russian spy, practice that Scottish accent. You're going to get away with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does it every time. Let's quickly look. We've inverted what we normally do here this week, haven't we? We've had the Ian hour first. Let's
because that's the only bit usually worth watching anyway.
It is. It's true. It is true. So stay with us, Mike. But let me just quickly run a couple of stories and then open the floor. Did we see? Do you remember when we had this chap on from Brink? Although that's his drone. There's 75 million for them. I'm still not a believer in this drone as a first responder thing. I don't think you'll have enough of them. And Cliff, this if were this to truly become popular, then this is where you'll be seeing lots and lots and lots of drones in the sky. But yeah, I don't think 75 million is a lot of money. But well done, Mr. Resnick, anyway. Yes. As you say, if you appear on this, they always succeed. You've seen it in the past.
Yeah.
Skydio, yeah.
He is doing business. It's good to see someone doing business. It's good to see something happening.
He is.
Soaking up all that money. Yep.
I think the model he's got works. It'll work over in the US because of the fact they're dealing with so many criminals with guns, and it's the principle of sending a robot instead, it can get shot. It doesn't matter, especially when they then send you out a brand new drone to get shot again, and it's not out of your pocket. Where over here in the UK,
and it's not illegal to shoot drones in America.
It's
not against the law. It's not illegal to shoot drones. You're allowed to shoot drones.
Well, you're not over there, are you? But you are over here. But yeah, over here, it doesn't really work because each police force is doing its own thing, and they've got restricted budgets. The only way you could do this is if the Home Office kind of did the contract and then made it as a service, or you pushed it out through National Police Air Service or something. But we just don't have enough everyday situations where you need a drone doing the stuff. There's just like breaking through the window and so on.
Simon Reckner's drone in a box here is gaining quite a bit of traction for site security. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that it's a lot of the business is going to go drone in the box for infrastructure inspections and things like that. It was always going to be that way. I can't remember which North Sea oil contractor based in London, just at the end of the runway at Heathrow. I can't remember what they're called, but their whole business model was predicated on that idea, and it just arrived too early. It arrived
Mr. TV says it's illegal to shoot down drone in the US. No, I watched a Ken Heron video the other day, and apparently it's not classified as an aircraft. A drone doesn't qualify as an aircraft, so it doesn't get the same protection as a manned aircraft. So you can shoot them down. It's not a breach of aviation regulations anyway.
Yeah, no, they did change the bend the rules a little bit to not make it fit into being an aircraft. You're exactly right. Again, in America, E-Propelled with their complete line of motors, frames, and all that sort of thing. I'm not sure whether they're telling the truth there, but I thought
they're getting the rare earth metals from, eh?
There you go. Precisely. And then
too far, Gary, as well. It's worth going back to just to bring as a topic on one moment and Skydio, because it was mentioned today that the tariffs that Trump's imposing are expected to hit both of those.
Oh, they will, because there's components from Taiwan that you can't get anywhere else. They will, and but it's a bit bigger than that, isn't it? So you've got your actual thing. Here's a thing. Oh, we'll make this thing, and we'll completely make this thing in America. But what about my table and chairs that I'm sat at, or the light bulbs and the this and that for the day-to-day operation of the company? The thing is one thing, but it's all the other stuff that you get from all around
Chinese
the world.
takeaway.
Chinese takeaway, you bugger. Yes, Chinese takeaway. Exactly right. Exactly. Oh dear me. All right, let's do. What's this last one? The last one was this one. 700X in the UK, the Royal Naval droney people are going to be resupplying with these Malloy jobs, which is pretty exciting. And that's their new hangar behind them there for their research group. I think of the UK forces, they're the ones that are probably ahead of all the rest is the Royal Navy. So good on them. Well done. They launched it yesterday, and they announced a new bloke in charge. A Cook, Lieutenant Commander Cook, is in charge of it. Announced today. So that was the news items that I thought were interesting.
But did you see New Zealand's military is getting into drones as well? There's a story here. It says the Defence Minister has given the New Zealand military permission to acquire killer drones, provided a human is operating them, and they only kill other soldiers. And the new $12 billion defence capability plan plans to spend up to $450 million on sea and air drones in the next 4 years. So how cool is that? I shall have to get my tender in.
Yeah. Which army was it? Somebody's army was spending $5,000 per unit on a simple FPV gear. It's like, no.
I'd do it for 4.5. What are they thinking?
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
But it's all about who puts on the booziest lunches and the best fact-finding trips for the people that make the choices. That's why New Zealand bought some armored military vehicles that wouldn't fit in the aircraft they were going to use to transport them, because it was all down to the best lunch. Who put on the best lunch? We'll buy their product. That's all.
And Simon, that Octocopter, I met the Malloy bloke who did that at Farnborough, I don't know, in 2012 or something like that. And he actually went to school in the school opposite the one I teach at down here. He's from South Africa. So I know all about that Malloy thing. And it blew my mind. It's a very, very small world. So I arrived in Farnborough, I was exhausted. He said, "Oh, why are you so tired?" I said, "I was just coming from South Africa." He said, "Oh, I lived in South Africa." "Where?" Oh, across the road. I know exactly where you're from. So anyway. But that is an amazing machine, that Malloy thing. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of those. But do you remember? I don't even remember. It started off as a flying motorbike. It started off as all that sort of thing. Do you remember when that Dubai chop your knees off one came out a few years ago? It wasn't that one, but it was very like
Dubai. That. Dubai's crazy. They were going to buy the Martin jetpack for putting out fires and rescuing people from buildings, and they had these flying motorbikes. Does this stuff ever happen, or are they just trying to gain the headlines?
No, it's just. Yeah, I think it's where you go if you've got something that no other regulator would dare let you fly there, because they know you probably kill somebody. And it's like in Dubai, well, it's lots of sand, it falls out of the sky. Worse happens, a camel gets killed.
Camels have rights. What was I going to say on this? I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. I'm getting tired now. So I couldn't find a video. Stephen, I think it was another angle of that big windy drone light show incident. Yes. But in this different angle, you could hear the wind a lot more, and you could see the trees going absolutely ballistic.
Yes. And that's that first video that came out when it happened, and it it looked like and I can see why people thought that it was jamming, and I was about to put a video out, and then I'd done a bit more investigating. I found another video. You could really see the trees, and then that video that you posted yesterday, you could really see how windy it was. So I think again, it's down to the perspective as to how you see things. It's fine to point your camera up, but when you have a look at the environment, and you can really see, and I have to honestly say, the person who launched that fleet, given what we could see, it was just insane. But again, this is a thing which does happen when you're flying these shows, is that you can be under pressure from someone behind you. You could, you can have a client who could be going, right, I want you to launch now. And, if you've got a pilot who's weak, which I've seen many, many times, and that's when accidents happen. So you need to have someone strong. I'm usually the C word I'm always the C word. I'm always the one who's there telling people to.
If you want to be strong, subscribe to my fitness channel. I got 70,000 subscribers, new subscribers last month, so it's doing very well. Thank you.
Did you?
Yep. Yeah.
Did you really in modern YouTube? Wow, well done. Gosh, that's quite a thing. Well done. Sorry. He's that's extraordinary. You have a look at Bruce's fitness channel. How much do I get paid for shilling it? If I do, what was
double what you got last month?
There you go. Absolutely. What else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say that was that. Seeing what a camera sees in the sky would have been a nice way to leave tonight. You're talking about, don't believe everything you see from a camera, etc., 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 etc. Fun per volts after the link. What's the link, Bruce? To your
just look up my
channel.
Name. Just look up Bruce Simpson.
Just Bruce Simpson. Yeah. It is an interesting thing. Look, we've gone over the hour. Mike, thanks very much for joining us. We will no doubt all. Go on. Oh God, here we go. Sorry, audience. Here we go.
I thought you went the private chat to show just because this just slightly concerns me. It amuses me and concerns me at the same time. So what's going on now is Ehang. He's putting influencers in the about to get clicks.
Pick me.
What I was just thinking with this though, it just struck me as having a parallel with billionaires in
spaceships,
submersibles going down to the Titanic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, is this the bloke that screams and screams and screams? You see how well, mate?
I thought it was, but I think I might have given you the wrong link now because I'm just trying to play
it's why?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's it for a few seconds on it.
Yeah,
that trivializes it to the correct degree.
Yeah, I just think it's so sad to see aviation go from the standard of professional test pilots down to this, really.
And today we'll be reviewing this blender.
Well, but isn't that modern life? Isn't that the way of the world now?
Perception is reality.
But can you imagine when they were launching the A380 and the first one that was actually launching from Toulouse, and they had him in the jump seat or something at the back?
What's the Wright Brothers TikTok channel called?
Yeah, absolutely. There, guys, it's late. It's time to go. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, you look after yourselves. We'll see you again. 2100 gin and tonic. And this time next week, we'll know whether your DJI gear costs double what it did today. We shall see. It's going to be very interesting times. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Look after everyone. See you next week. Cheers for now. Bye.